This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. From the big plays to life's everyday moments, see it all in sharp focus with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back, Edward Osovich, George Stoy here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. Welcome back to another William and Lauren practice report. And George, plenty to get into today here on a Wednesday, October 29th. Have we figured out any of the Halloween costume options that I've given you over the last couple days?
For you and me?
Yes.
No, I haven't thought much about it. Aaron and I at home, though, we're going to be out of town, but we were going to go.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
George has been talking about going as Bill Cosby a lot around here, and I thought it was a little bit weird. I didn't know if Erin would sign off on that.
No, she did not sign off on that. We were going to go as like hot dog vendors with our two dachshunds.
Beautiful. Yeah. I bet that they would like that, Finn and Scoop.
That they would love that. So, but
are they still going to go as hot dogs?
I don't think so. I think Erin's got some other plans. But.
Is Erin disappointed that you will not be at home to hand out candy on Friday night?
We live in a spot where you would think we would be handing out candy. I would think
there's going to be a lot of foot traffic, especially going all the way over to maybe Heritage Hills. I think that's where you'd want to go.
That's where people go. So, but we do have some candy because I did tell Erin to have some just in case, you want
to have some. And then if they don't come, then you have all the candy left over.
Exactly.
You're getting home ownership down, and I don't even own a home, and I know that. All right, before we get into everything, we need to catch up with John Mateer, Arbuckle Thomas, Peyton Bowen, certainly talking about bouncing back. We talked about John Mateer and kind of his endeavor, if you will, going out to Knoxville. We talked about it on Tuesday's show as well as today on the Unofficial 40 that you could hear in all of your listening platforms for podcasting. First, let's tell you about our good friends over at Home Field, the premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com, and I think we can officially say it. Like, the weather has completely shifted.
Yeah, you need one of those jackets.
Wednesday morning, it was freezing walking into the radio station.
And when Oklahoma's back in town in a few weeks, it's going to be cold at 11 a.m. kickoff with Missouri, and obviously the LSU game, it's going to be cold out. So now's the time to get some of those sweatshirts and sweaters that they've got over at Home Field.
The coach's jacket, the bomber's jacket, got the crew necks as well, which always have a good college vintage design. That is what Home Field Apparel does, and all you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. We talked to a number of the, I would call them the Leadership Council. I know they have one. I would imagine all three of these guys are in it, talking about John Mateer, Arbuckle Thomas, Peyton Bowen. Oklahoma looking to get back on the right track after something of a disappointing performance on Saturday.
Yeah, and we've seen them bounce back before, right? Obviously not the same type of opponent, but going on the road, beating a South Carolina team that has some talent, was supposed to be a good team this year. Like, we saw them respond well after the Texas game, so I think that's something they can lean on. But I do think that this group has good leadership. We've talked about that. They've got a lot of veteran players, and like you said, those three guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Peyton Bowen's been here 3 years now. R. Mason in his 4th year, and then I think Mateer, obviously he's not been here very long, but being the quarterback and just talking to him, has a great presence about him as a leader. And I think there's a lot of people that still believe in him despite some of the struggles he's had. But certainly I'm sure there's been a lot of talk this week about, hey guys, it's now or never.
I think we've documented that you could look at this one of two ways, right? You could look at it as, oh my God, what's about to come?
Yeah.
Pause. That would be a good look at it. But if you want to be glass half full, you can look at an opportunity just as much as Tennessee walking into the game 6-2 with everything in front of them. Oklahoma just the same, even though it might be a little bit different looking through it through a crimson lens.
For sure. I mean, I think that it's extremely difficult, but what an opportunity. I think that that's kind of the spin that you have to have on it if you're in that locker room right now. Like, what an opportunity we have in these final 4 games to still prove ourselves.
Say, F it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing
what do you
else
have to lose?
Exactly right.
Right. So what do you have to lose? And for some people in that building, you might have your job to lose. But for these players, I think they have to look at it and say, hey, like, let's go win this game and prove that we can be the team that everybody expected us to be this year, and go 9-3 or 10-2, and be in that playoff discussion. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there like, I can't believe you're talking about the playoff, but the reality is, if you can win some of these games, then you are in that conversation. So I think that those are kind of the things that the people in the locker room have to talk about and kind of block out some of that negativity that I'm sure everybody sees online right now.
As of recording, Oklahoma just a 3-point underdog going into Saturday, which I think is a little bit surprising.
It hasn't moved either. I thought it might move. I thought
Sure.
it might move in favor of Tennessee, and it hasn't much. So
I kind of thought when it opened at 4.5, we'd maybe even get up to maybe 5.5 by kickoff, but it's gone the other way. We talked to John Mateer as well as our Mason Thomas, Peyton Bowen on Monday night about the bounce back efforts that are taking place this week.
Yeah, I say the same way we always have, maybe just a little more intense. You know, it's we know how to practice. We're not a bad practice team, I'll tell you that. We practice hard, so we're going to be ready to go.
What excites you about that?
Just there's an opportunity. I think that's all you can dream for as a man and as a football player. Just the opportunity to bounce back and to play. I mean, even with the loss, like it's fun to play football. You know, it's fun to be in the stand or be with the fans in this atmosphere. It's still fun. You know, and I reminded myself of that yesterday. Like it's still fun. You know, and it's still a great opportunity. I'm blessed to be here. So.
No other way than doing it in practice. Practice habits is game reality. So if we won't do it in practice, definitely won't do it in the game. So we can do it enough in the practice and make that a habit. And it's hard to break a habit or build a habit, but if we continuously do it, we'll be right on track. Small details won't hinder us anymore.
I think we just banded together as a group, and like that's kind of what I've been saying. No one's getting down on themselves. Like we know that we can still do this thing, go to the playoffs, and just have every ability to do whatever we plan on doing, to be honest. And so I don't think we lost faith at all that Texas game, and I don't think we lost faith now. It's just a bigger margin for error. I mean, a smaller margin for error now, and that's how we look at it. That's the thing. That's the thing about it. It's not one of those things where that team was just so dominant that they just blew us out the water. It's just like those little things, those details, like you were saying, and I think that's what is kind of keeping us together. It's like we're watching college football all the time, and even in that game, like we had multiple chances to win it, and I think defensively we just bring it down to us. Like offense scored enough points to where we should be able to hold them and just like give ourselves the chance to win, and we did. But at the end of the day, I think we gave up too many explosives, just little things here and there, and that can't happen.
Yeah, we're still confident in what we do. Nobody can take that away from us. So for us to lose like that, it does hurt, but we still have our confidence, our juice. We know we can go still attack what we have in front of us, you know, the goals we set for the beginning of the season.
Listening to some of the players, it certainly seems like the right things are being said in the locker room. I know a lot of people roll their eyes and just really don't give a damn. There's
been no, at least that we know of, any player-only meetings. Like those are the stuff that like you hear about sometimes when it's like, oh, this thing might be going off the rails when those things start happening.
Certainly heard some of that coming out of Sunday with LSU and some of the stuff that's happening down there. That's not to say that there is going to be needing some improvement and certainly some self-reflection in terms of coaching and offense coordinator-wise.
Yeah.
Ben Arbuckle, I don't think anybody is just completely displeased with the performance or what he put together in terms of a game plan. You can point to some particular spots. Obviously, Xavier Robinson should have given him the ball more when you knew that he was a real positive on the ground for Oklahoma on Saturday. But it was asked this week, certainly from a Brent Venables lens as well as Ben Arbuckle's lens, what it looks like going back to the drawing board and trying to make some of these things easier for an offense, or more specifically, John Mateer.
Yeah, and it's important to remember when talking about Ben Arbuckle that he's 30 years old. This is only his 4th year ever calling plays. Like, think about that. He called plays, I believe, 1 year at Western Kentucky, 2 at Washington State, and now 1 at Oklahoma. Obviously, he's never called plays in a conference quite like this. And I feel like we anointed him before the season even started in terms of like, oh, he's going to be the next Lincoln Riley, and he was on, hot boards for head coaching jobs. Sure. And it's like, man, this guy's young. Like, he still has a lot to learn, and we're seeing that he has flaws, and he's going to have moments in games where you're like, what was that play call? And he's kind of like John Mateer. He's still learning in a lot of ways how to do his job at a high level, and I think he's done a pretty good job. You go back and you watch the game this past week, there's a lot of plays that I think were great play designs, great play calls in the moment. And then there were some plays that you're like, what exactly is going on? And so I think he's got a big task this week. Again, kind of like I was saying about the players, we saw them respond after the Texas game with a much better game against South Carolina. I thought the game plan against South Carolina was really good, and then you came back to the Ole Miss game, and there was just some gaffes in that game from Ben Arbuckle. And so what does he do this week, especially on the road? The communication's going to have to be excellent from him and obviously the players on the field, and coming up with, whether it's running the ball with Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock or finding some easy throws for John Mateer. This is a massive, massive week for Ben Arbuckle.
Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle discussed just that on Tuesday.
Yeah, Brent, how have you seen Ben Arbuckle sort of navigate the ups and downs of the offense and just kind of the inherent pressure that comes with being an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, just head on, tough-mindedness, always a good, honest evaluation, self-analysis of what's good, what isn't, what we need to do, what we need to lean on, what we need to protect. Very, very thorough and very straightforward, ultra consistent, in his approach, his passion, his energy, his toughness, the details, the discipline, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, you have to watch it a couple of times. You watch it a couple of times for a few different things. You watch it to, one, see how the flow of the game went. You watch it to see the execution of what you called, and then you watch it to see, would I have done something different in this situation? And I'm pretty sure every coach ever could say, I might do something different in that moment, in that situation. But between myself and our staff, a lot of things we had, if we get in this situation, this is what we're going to go for right here. And it's easy to look at hindsight and say, oh, man, I would have done that. But whenever you go in there with the confidence that we went in there, I felt good about it. There's always self-evaluation that has to happen. But the biggest self-evaluation that I took away from it for my own self and my own perspective is finding ways to make us execute better, make us more detailed, right? And that's not on the kids, that's on me. How can I be better at practice? How can I be better at installing a game plan to leave zero gray area and have maximum clarity? And that happens after a win and a loss. And you always are trying to find ways to get better, always trying to find ways in practice to implement things maybe you struggle at or things that you're good at but you want to get great at. And so that's the biggest part of the self-evaluation piece to me, is how can I have these kids play in such a way that they are going to be successful? And, that's the biggest thing to me.
Calling Kevin Durant an a-hole, it doesn't feel right anymore now that I use a bidet. Everything is clean in my household as well as yours, Mr. Stoya.
Yeah, Tushy's been awesome. Has kept me clean, super easy to install. I know a lot of people out there maybe are scared of getting the bidet because they don't know how to install it. Super easy process, and then once you got it going, man, it keeps everything clean down there.
There is something that we always get asked too, and it's, is it an easy effort to put the bidet onto the toilet? Every Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing, which is nice. That was easy for you, wasn't
myself.
it?
Yeah.
You did it for yourself. You didn't even hire that out?
I did it by myself.
Okay, well, that's good. Remember, a-hole is only a dirty word if you wipe. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code SoonerScoop at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with the promo code SoonerScoop. SoonerScoop. I was about to say .com. You see SoonerScoop right there on the screen in front of you. We should also tell you about our good friends over at Lucy. We have been doing so all season. 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Also have the Lucy Breakers, which is the nicotine pouches with an extra surprise inside. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. You can set yourself up with a subscription today. They will deliver it right to your door. All you got to do is go to lucy.co/SoonerScoop. Use the promo code SoonerScoop, and it'll be a simple, easy process. We do that here at the SoonerScoop.com offices. And we also must tell you the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. So is winning, George.
Yeah, Oklahoma needs to get back to it.
Let's get back to the program. There is some irony. I think that I remember the last time that we were out in Knoxville, and certainly things did not go well in that first half.
Yeah.
You had criticism of Lincoln Riley. You had criticism of a lot of people that
Baker
wanted
Mayfield.
to move on from Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Certainly the situations are drastically different, I think, but there is like some type of commentary to be had, like, here they go again, back out to Knoxville looking for something a little bit later in the season, obviously, than the September happenings, but nonetheless, a very important game for both sides.
It's funny because I'll never forget, I was a freshman in college, and I was watching the game in my dorm, and I remember I called my dad at halftime of that game and was like, I think they might need to go to Trevor Knight in the second half.
There was a lot of people.
Those were the conversations, and obviously what happened there really in that fourth quarter was kind of magical for Oklahoma. You hope Oklahoma can find something like that. I mean, if you can go into Knoxville and find a way to win, that would just be massive.
Baker Mayfield ended the day 19-39, 3 touchdowns, the 2 interceptions, and 187 yards. Obviously, Samaje had a nice game, and Sterling Shepard diving into the end zone. We have that Sights and Sounds from 2015 up on the SoonerScoop.com editorial page. I always remember, we always have fun looking back on it and just like the gaffes that Butch Jones had early in the first half.
That Tennessee team was supposed to be pretty good, and they ended up not being great that year.
Josh Dobbs.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs
for Tennessee.
Who's the running back that was real good for them?
Jared Hurd?
Yeah,
Gerard Hurd,
that sounds right. He was really good that game, I remember.
No doubt about it. All right, Oklahoma, obviously, you got to have John Mateer. We've established that, play better. We did talk to Deion Burks, and I thought it was interesting just in terms of a guy that I would thought was going to have a better season that he's had to date. Obviously, the quarterback play hasn't been on par with what a lot of people imagined it was going to be. But nonetheless, Deion Burks, certainly somebody that's been around the program for the last couple of years, he needs to step up a little bit here and have maybe more opportunity.
Yeah, he certainly hasn't lived up to the expectations. He's not having a terrible year. I mean, I'm looking at his stats here, 36 receptions, which is second on the team behind Satania, and 390 yards, which is third on the team behind Satania and Kanik. So, it's not been terrible, but you'd love to see more explosive plays. Like, looking at his, average, yards per in scrimmage yards, 9.4. Like, you would expect him to have more explosive, right? And getting him the ball down the field, and we just haven't seen that vertical part of the game. And they've tried to get him the ball in space a few times, and he hasn't been able to make people miss like you'd hope, but I also know there's a lot of plays out there that he's running open and Mateer just doesn't see him. So finding a way to get him going, because right now Satania's about it. That's going on offense, at least at the receiver position. Even Kanik hasn't done much in the last few weeks. So finding a way to get Deion Burks the football and get him involved, I think is always a good idea.
Here is Deion Burks talking about if there's any frustration so far on Monday night, as well as Ben Arbuckle with some positive news on the Deion Burks front.
What's the feeling like of just watching the game back from Saturday? And did it feel like you guys left a lot of points out there?
Of course. It feel like definitely left a lot on the field and stuff, but just to next week now. You can't be harped on too much. Just correct the mistakes, watch what we did wrong, and now it's next week mentality.
Do you get frustrated during the game? You get open and just things aren't going your way, I guess, offensively, just the struggle maybe as a whole offensively. How do you keep from getting frustrated?
Man, just know it's football, man. It's more than just me on the field. Never know really what's going on behind the play, but no, just next play mentality, man. Just trying to get open again. If I'm missed or anything like that, just doing my job.
Yeah, Deion's a talented kid who's been, honestly probably had the best 2 weeks consistently of practice from a technical standpoint and a straining to finish standpoint. It showed up in the game too, whenever you look at him away from the ball, sprinting to the ball, trying to pick up a block, and always just trying to be in position if something, were to go awry. Deion's a talented kid. Just finding ways to get him the ball out in space and operational space, because he has the ability just with his quick twitch and his speed to catch and go and outrun somebody. So just got to keep on working with him. And there's times in that game where the ball probably should have found him a time or two, and for one reason or another it didn't whenever we were out there. But Deion's been really consistent out at practice, so I'm really proud of the way that he's been attacking practice and getting after it.
John seemed to take the Texas loss kind of on his shoulders a whole lot and then responded pretty well. South Carolina. What did you learn about him and how he bounces back through that last week?
Yeah, man, he's a leader, man. Coming Sunday, man, he was in here watching film, watching the next team, South Carolina. So that's definitely dope to see. He got short-term memory. He's a leader, so he's going to pour it all on himself. Like the quarterback, like you get all the love if you win, you get all the hate if you lost. So, but he keep a level head, man, and don't pay attention to really nothing else.
You talked about John's bounce back and his mindset, but when the offense doesn't perform like it wants to, like the other day, how have you seen Ben sort of come back from that and rally this group?
Man, just a leader, you know. He just bring everybody in. He brings the best out of everybody, you know. The plays is only good as the player go, you know. So just getting everybody else to get on the same page and just doing your 111.
Certainly interesting to hear him talk. If nothing else, always enjoy talking to Deion Burks. He's usually one of the, I guess, more outspoken guys on the team, just in terms of he stands there and answers a bunch of questions that I'm sure that are kind of tough to talk about right now.
Sure.
And he's had to do so for over the last year and a half since he arrived in Norman. Wide receiver, though, I know that we talked about it a little bit on the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. We want to see more Elijah Thomas. Is that an answer to anything? If nothing else, I think it'd make me feel better, to make me feel like they're trying something.
Yeah, I agree. Or even a Zion Kearney, who we heard a ton about during fall camp. We just haven't seen him.
Has been non-existent this year.
And, as we're recording this, we don't know the availability report, but can you get a Keontez Lewis, who's done some really good stuff for you this year? I mean, they could certainly use another guy like that, and you'd still like to get Giovanni Gibson going. I don't know what's going on there. He's playing a lot of snaps, just hasn't got a ton of balls thrown his way, at least he didn't this past week. So I would like to see the rotation open up a bit, but I also know that they feel like there's guys open and Mateer's got to deliver it.
No doubt about it. By the way, the availability report will come out on Wednesday night. Certainly don't really have a good idea of who's going to be on it, who's going to be off it. Kobe McKenzie certainly left the game last week in the second series of the game against Ole Miss. You have Keontez Lewis, as you said. Javonte Barnes has been questionable the last couple weeks. Another guy, Derek Simmons. Certainly, I kind of expect him to still be on it, obviously coming out of the concussion situation that made him miss the Ole Miss game, which opened the door for somebody like Ryan Fodje, who the Oklahoma staff went to 2 days before kickoff against Ole Miss.
Crazy.
Said, hey, freshman, you got to play right tackle this week, and not only do you have to play, but you have to start. How'd you just feel like he played overall in his debut at right tackle?
I mean, considering the circumstances, I thought he played extremely well. I thought that, to be able to go in there, thrown into the fire, and play against an SEC opponent like Ole Miss, and they don't have, some of the edge rushers that say like South Carolina had in Dylan Stewart, but to play the way he did, I thought was incredibly impressive. And he played right tackle throughout his high school career, so he understands it. But since January, he's only been playing guard, and specifically right guard, and so to be able to bump out to right tackle and play like he did, I think says a lot about him and his maturity, as well as just his pure athleticism and physical ability. And then talking to him, you can see why this OU coaching staff is so high on him, as well as Michael Fasusi. I mean, he's the same way. Both these guys seem to have the right mentality when it comes to developing and learning and playing such an important position like offensive tackle.
We did talk to him on Monday night after practice, as well as hearing from Ben Arbuckle, just talking about how impressed he was with the freshman offensive lineman being able to move 2 days before kickoff. Here both they are on a little Ryan Fodje package.
I like playing tackle. I like being on the island by myself. That's where you get most exposed. And people, if you're good at tackle, you're gonna get more exposed in a good way. I feel like at guard, not necessarily as bad, but I like being on my island. It was a lot of pressure, playing. When I first got here, I played guard for 7 months, and switched to tackle for, really only had 2 days of practice at it. But I feel like I transitioned pretty good and was able to execute.
Where do you feel like you've made your biggest strides since the start of the season when you're getting in a little bit of guard to now?
I'd say my effort. I've noticed football is really just, you have to give it your all in college, especially. You can't come after a game, go back to your room and be having energy. You got to be 100% worn out.
Proud as can be of Ryan stepping in, going to that position. He had a great week of practice. Throughout practice would make your typical freshman mistake, but I mean, just like that, would correct the mistake. And he really played a really good game, was physical, had great communication. I mean, was just awesome. And so I think that's huge for his confidence. I think it says a lot about him as a player and the talent that he has, that he's able to move around, especially at such a young age. And I think it speaks to how intelligent of a kid he is, too, to be able to go out there, pick it up, get what Coach Biedenbow is trying to tell him, and go out there on a big stage and play the way he did. So I'm really proud of Ryan. It says a lot about him, and I'm just excited to see him grow even more.
It was really good because, a veteran like him, he's good at over-communicating in his leadership. He would like, remind me what the center's calling or the play, especially when it's getting loud. It's really nice playing next to Fodje.
You played there in high school. Did feel like you just kind of get back on the bike a little bit?
Yeah, just, muscle memory, to be honest, yeah. I would say really it's more a technique in college. Like in high school, you can really set out there, and because of how athletic I was in high school and how better I was than everybody else, I could just grab people. But, here, you really got to focus on your technique, and, yeah, they're faster guys in college here, too, so, yeah.
What did you think of just the day overall, offensive line-wise, just at you guys as a Bison there?
We started a little slow in the first half. We could tell the energy wasn't really there. Got halftime, talked to the game plan, picked it up, picked the energy up, ran for 2 big explosive plays in the second half. But yeah, pass pro wasn't that bad. But yeah, we need to be better physically and mentally. Yeah.
Don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it certainly feels like you were looking at, when you're talking about Ryan Fodje, the right tackle of the future for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, and I know a lot of people out there don't want to hear the positives, but you start looking at this offensive line, and whether it's Michael Fasusi or Ryan Fodje or even an Eddie Pierre-Louis, who I thought played pretty well at left guard this past week, the future seems bright up front. They've got some players up there, and that doesn't even include, a guy like Darius Afalava, who I think is going to end up being a really good player for Oklahoma, has been injured all year, but they've got some bright young freshmen that are really playing well for them right now. And if you're starting, left tackle is Michael Fasusi and you're starting right tackle is Ryan Fodje for the next 3 years, I think that could end up being a pretty good tandem.
No doubt about it. For Oklahoma to go on the road and to win a game against Tennessee, there's going to be a lot of boxes that are going to have to obviously be checked over the weekend. I think at the top, you start talking about turnovers, then you work your way into penalties, something that has been a problem for Oklahoma in the 2 losses.
Yeah, for sure. And especially on special teams. Special teams, I think is it 7 penalties in the last 3 games?
Yeah, it's not good.
That's really bad. And then, offensively, they've had these, some of the illegal motions or formations or whatever, holding penalties. And when you have an offense that's struggling, you can't get behind the sticks. Like, that just kills drives. And then even defensively, the offsides from R. Mason Thomas, that just can't happen. Pass interferences, we've seen that be an issue. And this week, I'm sure Tennessee's going to test those corners. So cleaning up the penalties, for me, especially on special teams, like that's where you can't let that happen. The holding penalties on punt return or blocking the back, whatever it is, it seems like every single week you have a big return or something happens and it just is a big momentum killer.
Oklahoma beating Oklahoma. Brent Venables talked about that a little bit more in depth on Tuesday at his weekly luncheon.
Yeah, the way you affirm success, same thing. You're always looking for opportunities to teach, and the penalty, obviously, that we had. I know I spoke about this a couple of times, but put us in a tough position coming out of our own end zone, and then we followed it up with another penalty after a positive play coming off the end zone prior to the safety, and the fumbles, something that's you always hate, and so you say, how do you avoid that? And Isaiah is doing a great job hanging on to the ball. The guy, just ripping and ripping and ripping at it. I look at, how did that guy get there? And whose man was that? That's what I look at, and that's something that we can control. And we can certainly control ball security as well. We emphasize that every day, and we costly, turned into 3 points there. Big opportunity to teach and learn, and we certainly did that. You hit it right head on and have great communication, great trust. You put the guys in the same position. We got, after the safety, we had a backed up kickoff, and They got a nice return, past our 50 that also set up another field goal. So there's a cumulative effect to the penalty, to the procedural issue when we're not lined up on the line of scrimmage after we got off the goal line, and then we get the safety, and then we kick off, and then we have a couple of young guys that got pinned, and they circled the kickoff team and had a nice return there that set up another field goal. So, you're looking at, an 8-point, issue at the end of the day, as a result of those special teams plays, with the fumble turning into 3 points. And really, we're going to get the ball at midfield and have a chance to score. We had tremendous momentum. Had just taken the lead, and so really costly, on both of those special teams, really 3 special teams miscues. And, to your point, we've been good, but there's been the penalties, man, we've got to eliminate those. And so there's a fundamental thing to all of it. We were actually misaligned. I had a player that was a backup that got in the game and really was misaligned. She wasn't supposed to be over there, and so we double team a guy and we pull him to the ground, and that's how that happened. So you just got to hit it head on. I think if there's anything that's taken out of this last weekend, and this is not a last weekend thing, but it's I think for our guys through the failure and losing, that every single play in the game has magnitude. You don't know when those plays are. It's not always the 4th and 5 at the end of the game. That play's important too, but there's so many other plays, early in a game, middle of the game, that have tremendous magnitude. So everybody has a job to do. You need to be able to execute it at a really, really high level, because it all adds up. Everything matters.
Certainly makes sense, and certainly a lesson that you hope this Oklahoma team has learned here over the last 2 of the last 3 weeks. Obviously, in Dallas, and then last week here at Norman. OU Tennessee coming up on Saturday. Anything lasting with you, George?
Nope. That's about it. I'm excited for the game day preview. We're gonna have Brent Hubbs on from VolQuest. He's the best. So excited to get his perspective, because I think obviously a lot of people here are down on Oklahoma. I'm interested. How do Tennessee fans feel about what's going on there in Knoxville? Because it's not been a great season for them. Certainly not a terrible season either.
Sure.
But this is a massive game, just like it is for Oklahoma.
That's where we'll be on Thursday for the game day preview, and then we will round out the week with another round of Around the Quarter, taking all your questions from the Crimson Corners. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.